Beverly Council on Aging welcomes you to our program, Livin' the Good Life, designed to explore our beautiful city and the world around us.
Hello and welcome to Livin' the Good Life. I'm Bob Hobbs. We haven't talked in a long time. It's been 2 or 3 years since we did a show. But we're trying to get things back together. And today we're going to do a show on one of the great programs at the Beverly Senior Center called A Walk in the Woods. My guests today are MaryAnn Holak, the Executive Director of the Council on Aging, and Ann Nadeau, a trucker, along with me. She did a better job of it than I did. She didn't fall in any holes or get lost. And the idea of the program is once a week, there's a group of people, which we'll try to limit to about a dozen, would meet at a different place in Beverly for walks literally through the woods. You know, and the first one, it worked out great for me because it was the first walk was around Kelleher Pond. And really, to get a mile on that, you have to walk around 3 times. So it was, it was. I live right across the street from it, so it was one where I couldn't fall in the hole and get lost. And that's when we got the program off the ground and going. And MaryAnn, how did we originally get into this program designed and thought? Who thought of this idea?
Well, between myself and Tess, our activities coordinator, we knew that people had been home and isolated and afraid to go out, and the spring was coming, and we had an opportunity to apply for a short-term grant from the Massachusetts Council on Aging. And I also knew that the Beverly Open Space and Recreation Commission worked really hard on mapping out all the trails in Beverly. And most older adults don't want to go walking in the woods on their own, nor should they. That's one of my tips, don't go by yourself. So we thought if we could get a grant to bring a group of people together out of their homes into the fresh air, learn the trails in Beverly, get some fresh air, make some new friends, and break some of the social isolation of the winter and really indeed throughout the whole pandemic where people felt isolated. So we were successful. We wrote the grant, we were successful, and it's really not like you need a lot of money to go walking in the woods.
No,
but we were able to buy T-shirts and water bottles and journals and pedometers and just fun gifts that people could have with them. And we also were able to create a brochure with tips about walking in the woods and with a link to all the trails in Beverly. Mm-hmm. And I actually stole the name from this particular book called A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson, which is a pretty classic book, loved by many people, about his story of walking along the Appalachian Trail. And so we took that name and we said, let's walk in the Beverly Woods. I'm an old camper, even a camp director, so I love walking in the woods. And actually one of my camp experiences was right at the base of the Long Trail in Jonesville, Vermont, where I was a camp director. So we met a lot of hikers on that trail when I was back in my college days. But I really just think that the out of doors, there's nothing better for people who need fresh air and just to be with other people. Yeah. And we kept it safe. We asked people to continue to wear masks. We actually bought masks as part of the gifts that we got. But between Bob and Ann, you both participated. So let's hear about your experience.
Well, then, excuse me, Ann.
Go ahead.
The first walk, as I said, was Kelleher's Pond. And I think that's really a good place to start because it's a short walk. It's a rather clearly defined trail, and then you can't really get lost. I just think that was great. We started out, we've done this now a couple of years now.
Two series. We've done 2 series, the spring of 2021 and also the fall of 2021.
Right. And Well, we started out the test that was running the walks, gave us a journal, said keep a journal. Everybody just keep a journal of your experience when you did the walk. Could be a story, it could be a paragraph, that kind of thing. And I started out doing that. I wasn't able to make all of the walks between one thing and another, VA appointments and all the nonsense you got to do. But I did have an entry. Sometime during the show, I will read the entry that I made in the journal for Kelleher Ponds. And we'll get into that. Ann, did you do the same thing?
I didn't make poems, but I did do some, like walking when I saw different things. Like we were at Coolidge. Is it Coolidge? No. Wait a minute. It's, we were at Norwood's Pond and we saw deer. There was a herd of deer there. And then we saw some Baltimore Oreos. And then on another walk, we saw two blue heron. And we've seen all kinds of different things. And one walk, when one of the guests was talking to us, he showed us there was Boston fern and there was cinnamon fern, and he told us why there was cinnamon fern, because there was little brown hairs growing on the fern, and that's why it was cinnamon. And it was it was New York fern, because Boston fern doesn't grow in Boston or any of this area. It was New York fern. And then different things, like I never knew, like a Princess pine only grows 6 inches. I thought it would grow really big, but we learned all kinds of things walking and stuff like that, and seeing different things in the woods and stuff.
That was at Norwood Pond?
At Norwood's Pond.
Yeah. That was the one where I couldn't find Norwood's Pond. How am I doing? Yeah. How much do I need to take a few of these ones? Daniel Boone isn't threatened when I'm out there, I can tell you that.
I think that's really something that we weren't anticipating, but you learned an awful lot about nature.
Yes, definitely.
And I remember one day they were very excited to have found some lady slippers in the woods.
Yes, those were up at Bald Hill. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
That was one part of the program that I forgot to mention, is that we decided that we would invite guests to go along on the walks with the seniors. And so we had the mayor, we had the Secretary of Elder Affairs, we had Councilor Flowers, we had Councilor Coleman,
From the Ward 6 Councilor.
State Rep Jerry Paracella, all joined a walk.
Yeah.
So that was really fun too, to bring people outside of the senior center and to be in a natural environment. The director of the library went on one of the walks.
One of the firefighters.
One of the firefighters went on a walk with us. So I really thought that was a fun addition.
It was.
That
It
was a
was a
nice
fun
touch. In fact,
addition.
I very much enjoyed talking to each of those people.
Yes.
The walks that I was able to make. And I think the mayor was on the walk up through Long Hill.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, he didn't get the distance. But I didn't even make the starting line, because I spent so much time up there that I went to they were doing some work up there.
Oh.
And so by the time I said maybe I should join the walk, you guys were just about wrapping things up. So I did not get to do the back part of the Long Hill walk. But I was really surprised how many places there are in Beverly to hike that I never even knew about.
I was thinking the same thing, because I had no idea there was that many places to walk in Beverly, in the woods. And there's one that down at Beverly Commons. They say they do a lot of bike riding down there too.
Yeah.
Mountain biking, but they were all so surprising to me that I didn't know they were there.
Well, I didn't know, for instance, the Phillips Estate which is up by the airport.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was town owned. It was conservation land, and you could
Right.
walk through there. So that was an education for me, and none of them really were.
And that one was surprising that somebody actually lived there, and there's some remnants of
Yeah.
the houses and the
Yeah.
buildings there. So that was interesting.
Yeah, covered with graffiti, fascinating graffiti.
Yeah.
Yes, I had some that stick out in my mind, because I wish I had been able to make all of them. But I made at least a half anyway.
Yep.
But one of the ones that kind of sticks in my mind, rather negatively, I'm afraid, was Sally Milligan. You know the story.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is that I live right in the Essex Street apartments, and there's the railroad tracks, and then right across the tracks is Sally Milligan. So instead of meeting all you guys at the parking lot to start the walk, I said, look, start without me, and I just got a few things to do, and I'll just go across the railroad tracks, and I'll meet you on the trail. Which we did, miraculously.
Right,
And
right.
that did work out very well. I know soon.
We were surprised to see you, too.
I know. I just crossed through the woods. There was no trail getting up to the... So I get up to the main trail, and I know soon I got there, then you guys came around the corner.
Yeah.
And I said, it was great. And what I should have done, Daniel Boone would never be as stupid as me, is kind of figure out where I was, because who knew? Anyway, all I remember was when we just started walking, there was a big rock in the trail, and there was a hat. Somebody left their hat on the rock. So we did the walk, and off we went and wandered around, and it was a nice walk. Sally Milligan is when you said the bikes, I know that I think when we were up there, it's a bike ride that did go through.
Oh.
And so then we walked back. We ended up at the parking lot. And instead of following good advice or accepting good advice, the gal said, you want to ride back? I said, no, I just go back the way I came. And so I said, no, you guys go ahead, don't worry about a thing. I'm doing fine. And so I started back on the main trail. And I kept going and going. I said, you know something? Every part of this woods looks like every other parts of the woods. And I have no idea where I am. And but I knew I crossed the railroad tracks. And I said, well, they got to be down there. And I said, well, do you think I could find a rock with a hat on it? I don't know where the hat was. Somebody came and took it away, I guess. So all the rocks look the same. So I said, well, I'll just go down here. I'll go across the railroad tracks, and there's the Essex Street Apartments. How hard can this be? But there's no trail, like I said, walking through the woods. And so I'm going down this, and there was a big hole, where this is going now. And it looked like a big tree had pulled out years ago, and the tree had now rotted away or whatever. But I couldn't see the hole because it was all grown over. So naturally, I said, looked like all the rest of the ground. So I guess, of course, I immediately fell into the hole. Now I'm laying there, and there's like this man-eating vine had me around the legs. The more I thrashed, the deeper in I got. And I said, okay, man, put yourself together. What exactly was your plan when this happens? I said, I had no idea. By the time I got out of that hole, I said, I can't keep going because I never did see the railroad tracks again. So I climbed back, and I walked back to the parking lot, and then walked home from there. You guys were having supper by the time I got home. I ended up walking like 5.5 or 6 miles. I went back to Lakeshore Drive and everything else. And
Now, I think one of the tips in our brochure is to stick with the group.
Yes, I know. As I said,
So
never being one to heed
Exhibit
good
A
advice.
of-
I said, what's Daniel Boone got that I don't have? Yeah. So that was my more memorable walk. I can tell
And
you
I think
that.
Sally Mulligan can be a tough trail for some people. I have a story of another board member, actually, of the Council on Aging, who went with her dog into the woods and fell at Sally Mulligan. And she had to call 911. She had her phone with her, good thing. She
Yeah.
had service. And she was so embarrassed because the EMTs had been her high school students. But it was a good reminder to her that, you need to really just be safe when you go on the trails. And some of them are more rugged than others. And I think that's the feedback that I got from a lot of the participants, that there were some easy trails, but a lot of them were more rugged than they thought they would be.
But it rained, too.
Yeah.
So that couldn't help either.
The
'cause
rain does-
Because they got a little slippery. But then, when it kept raining, we just walked around the track at the high school one time, and that was safe. And so it's, you just have to watch where you're walking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know that. Well, some of the places. Well, Sally Milligan's an example. I mean, some of the trails are pretty easy if you know them.
Yeah.
But if you get off the main trail,
trail.
some of those side trails can be rugged, and you don't really know where you are.
Right. Right.
That's why I know that. I believe Tess used to walk the trails the day before, or a couple of
Yes,
days.
that was one of the things that we did in the beginning, was we would have our staff member actually go out and scout out the trails the day before. So they had at least some familiarity. We had hoped that some of the Open Space and Rec Commission members would help us, but they all worked during the day, and our program was during the day.
That's right.
So we were kind of on our own. We actually had a high school student intern help doing some of the scouting of the trails for us, and he was going to go to school to study civil engineering. So I told him this was his first internship
Assignment, yeah.
and getting out and scoping out the trails. Of course, he loved the program so much and did such a wonderful job in interacting with our older adults on the trails that I told him I might turn him into a social worker.
He was good.
He was really he was a
good.
great addition. Eric
Yeah.
DePiro is his name, just to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
he was a really nice kid.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
He was. You could have told him that if he'd been the one that found me in the hole, the conversation wouldn't have been civil.
Oh, Bob.
It would have been more racetrack than
Yeah.
walk in the woods thing. Did you have one, Ann, that stood out in your mind?
The
as
one
being the
at
best one?
Long Hill, when towards Halloween, they had it all decorated with all kinds of pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. That was fun to watch, fun to look at and walk around it and take, all of the different shapes of the pumpkins and their different faces and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. And the other one was Norwood's Pond. I liked that one too. That was really nice there too.
Yeah, you guys were making good time on that. I eventually found Norwood Pond.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
wasn't thinking up behind the North Beverly School.
Right.
So I'm looking at Wenham Lake. I'm saying, where's everybody? Of course,
Well, I was
everybody's at
three
Norwood Pond, of course.
When I got there, I was three streets off. So then I called and they told me, "Oh, you're real close. Just come around that way." So.
Yeah, so I was like maybe 10 or 15 minutes behind you guys.
Yeah.
You guys had left. And so I said, well, I'll catch up to them. Not, you guys must have been sprinting. I said, I got like 3/4 of the way around, and I said, well, they're back at the car,
Yeah.
And there was some construction going on in a house they were building or something like that. And I said, well, I can't keep up with these guys, so I never saw anybody I did get 3/4 of the way around Norwood Pond, but I never saw any of the hikers or anything else. You guys were cutting it out pretty good there.
Well, with all the rain, when we went down to Bald Hill, when we walked up the hill and then we walked a long distance on flat land, we couldn't get by there the second time because all the trees had fallen down with all the wind and stuff like that. And the dog followed us back the first time.
Did you get to keep the dog?
No. Tess returned him.
We did have a dog, but
Yeah.
Tess Conley, when she lived. There was a dog in the walk up behind, I believe it was the Centerville School.
Yeah,
Some dog adopted us.
followed us back.
And it followed her back, and I said, well, maybe I got an idea what we're going to do with this dog. Big dog, too. And Tess said, yeah, I'm taking it. I thought she was a loser. I thought she literally was going to take it home. But she knew who the owner, somebody knew who owned the dog, so she
Somebody knew
took it
where
home.
the street was that we might have picked him up at.
Yeah.
And then she took him in the car all the way back, and
Yeah.
they asked the people, do you know whose dog this is?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice experience.
And our last walks, we ended at Lynch Park, so we could have a lunch and a celebration. And then
Yes.
this fall, Bruce Doig actually gave a history
Yes, he did.
walking tour of
Yes.
Lynch Park. Do you remember?
Let's see. He
you write-
told us all about how it became. It's back here. How it all came about, Yeah.
How it became Lynch Park, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was the Evans estate
Right.
prior to that.
and then how the owner didn't like President Taft and didn't want him to come stay there anymore. So
owner's- the
he
owner's
moved
wife.
his house. Yeah.
Yeah.
He moved his house. Moved the house, and then and that's how it. Part of the history.
No, that's
of
very
that.
interesting, because
Yeah.
Bob Evans was a good friend with William Howard Taft. That's
Yeah.
he had invited William Howard
Right.
Taft to spend make the cottage they call, which is
Right.
really was a mansion for crying out, his summer White House, which he did. But Marie Antoinette Evans, Bob Evans' wife, couldn't stand William Howard Taft.
That's right.
But all the Secret Service guys were nailing telephones to the trees and and you could just
Yeah.
in those days you could walk in and say, I want to have a cup of coffee with the president, and walk in and have a cup of coffee with him.
Right.
So there was a lot of trafficking through there, which she didn't like at all. And then when Bob Evans got thrown off a horse and died as a result of his injuries, Marie Antoinette was done with you. She was done with you. She sent a note to the president saying, "You're done, man. You're not coming back here."
Yeah.
And then she cut the cottage in half, and shipped each half further across the harbor to Marblehead.
Oh,
where
okay.
it was
Yeah,
put
yeah.
up. So, and then she made that, what is now called the Rose Garden.
Yes.
It was an Italianate garden and was really a beautiful thing. I've seen several postcard pictures of it.
Yeah.
She really did a good job. But like I said, when Marie Antoinette was done with you, she was done with you. Well, William Albert Taft then was up at, what's the place on Corning Street? Parramatta.
Yes.
Yeah, he had,
Yes.
think
I
it-
used to live there. I lived in the FBI quarters when I
Oh,
first got married.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's wonderful, rich history in Beverly too, and
Yes.
as a matter of fact, some of the feedback we got from the participants was they'd like to do historical walks of
Yes.
Beverly.
Well, I think I like the idea.
I
Yes,
do, too.
and then we asked, how about other kinds of outdoor activities? And when I suggested kayaking,
Yeah.
I had a lot of affirmation.
Yes.
So a lot of older adults might not get in a kayak by themselves, but to go with 6 or 7 other older adults and make friends and have fun out on the water right along the coastline. Well, let's do it next summer.
That sounds like
Doesn't
a
that?
lot of fun.
Doesn't that
I've
sound
never
like fun?
done it, but it looks
Yeah.
like if you get out there and get caught in the current,
Well, you got to watch the tides. You do
are really
have
going to be
watch the tides.
able to overcome the. Because I have,
Uh-oh.
if you stand at the end of Lynch Park, you can see sometimes very young people, not
Yeah.
seniors, when they're trying to get back in and the tide's going out. I mean, they're going crazy and they're not moving.
Yeah.
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 So I said, well, I might try it just because I might end up in France, which is the only way I'm ever going to get to Europe again.
Bob, I think you maybe should read your poem that you wrote about your first walk
This
at
was the very
Callahurst
first walk, yeah.
Pond.
And,
It made us all laugh and smile a lot. So hopefully your audience today will also
we'll get in the spirit of things.
be at home with a smile on their faces.
Yeah, no, this was about week 1, the first walk that we took, which I said was around Callahurst Pond. And Tessa said, well, keep some kind of a journal on each of the walks, and then we'll talk about them on the last walk, which is around Lynch Park, as we said. All right, so I did on week 1, Callahurst Pond, and I am asked to respond. So, roses are red, violets are blue. Some folks keep journals, but not I do. Some people like writing and such. As for me, not so much. The around Callahurst Pond, through the geese's feces, what's not to grow fond of nature's species? But the splashdown of a snowy white egret, which did happen, wipes away the frown and any regret. An exhaustive search for deer ticks under a leafing out birch is always fun and kicks. But drinking in nature's beauty and special features will absolutely never replace coffee and Reese's Pieces. That is my contribution. Ogden Nash doesn't feel threatened either, by the way. So I wrote a few more like that, but that was my efforts on the walk around Callahurst Pond and sort of set the tone for
Yeah.
that was the spring walk.
And the friendships you're making when you
Yeah,
walk,
yeah.
talking, and everybody stays with you to make, even people that couldn't do it real fast, we all held back and we kept with each other and, helped each other out and stuff like that. So, and the friendships were really nice to make too.
Yes, and that was one of the tips that we had when we started was you walk as fast or as slow as the slowest person,
Yeah.
so that everybody can be included.
And it works out well that way because there were a couple of walks where I felt like I was in a sprint.
Right.
I was qualifying for the Olympics. But I'm a laggard and due to troubles with my eyes. I have to be careful. I have to actually watch where I'm going
Yeah.
because there's tree roots growing up through the ground and everything, and I've reached that point where I can't see them unless I'm really going
Right,
slow
slow.
and paying attention.
Yeah.
I would much rather
Yeah.
be looking at the birds and
Right.
watching the trees leaf out and everything. So going slow was very important, and I led the world in that. But some folks stayed with me, and it was really nice. I enjoyed the socialization and
Yeah.
and the company.
That
and
was
everything
very
else.
nice, yeah.
And I'm hoping we can expand on it. I mean, or just repeat it
Right.
on an annual basis. The spring should be called the mud season.
Absolutely.
So if you do it, just dress accordingly.
Yeah.
You know, it's not
Yeah.
an operation where it's going to stop the walk. But you just
Right.
have to deal with it. But it does get muddy in a couple of places.
Yes. Yes.
And I did want to say that Beverly Hospital heard about our program, and they gave us a matching grant. So for session 2, we were able to also buy the books and the journals and the water bottles and the T-shirts, which again aren't necessary, but are kind of fun for a group
Yes.
of people who are doing a project together. It's
Yes.
fun to have that T-shirt to wear, and your. We also bought everybody first aid kits. I see Bob
Yes.
sitting right there
Yeah.
on the
Yes,
table.
Yeah, as I said, you must have known that I was going to go through Sally Miller. But of course, I didn't have this with me. I was laying there, and I'm saying, all right, now, here's your options, man. You can stay here, and they'll find you in about 6 millennia. Or,
But you got yourself out and you got yourself going.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
well, believe it or not, guys, we're down to the last minute.
We are.
And it does go very fast.
Yes,
And
it did.
I want to thank you for your being here, for your input and your thoughts. And I'm hoping we can do this again next
I would
season.
love to. Do you think I have time to read a Thoreau poem about
Sure,
the woods?
absolutely.
So Henry David Thoreau, one of the first naturalists that I know, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. And I really think that, living, and walking and being
Yes.
with people really is part of a healthy aging and a healthy life. So
I definitely like that, yes.
That's a good point.
Very nice.
Yeah, and actually, that's very true because when I'm out like that in the woods and with people, I really do feel alive. I really, it isn't like I'm just slogging through life. I feel like things are going
Yeah.
well, and I enjoy it.
It did.
And
And it was, just being out there was nice. And the quiet, no cars. It was nice.
well, thank you guys so much
Thank
for your
you.
company
Thank
and your
you,
input.
Bob.
And thank you for watching. I'm Bob Hobbs, and we'll see you next time on Living the Good Life.
You've been watching Livin' the Good Life. We always welcome your comments and suggestions for future programs. Call us at 978-921-6017.